The Trumpet Daily from Jerusalem.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Trumpet Daily. Israeli President Shimon Peres was recently interviewed by Spiegel Online in Germany, and Spiegel prefaced its questions by referring to the recent UN vote that upgraded the status of the Palestinian Authority to a non-member observer state. Now, Peres believes the UN vote means that Israel and the Palestinians must return to the negotiating table now. And in order for peace talks to resume, he said, Israel must forget the past and move on. Spiegel responded by saying, well, both sides have cited thousands of years of history, to which Peres responded by saying, we are not going to deal with Abraham, our father and brother. It's over. It's over, he said. That history is gone and in the past. Just forget about it. And Spiegel then referred to Prime Minister Netanyahu, saying that he refers to that history, Israel's history, almost on a daily basis. And here's how President Peres responded to that. He said, history is necessary to justify the present, but to go back 2,000 years? He said, leave that to the historians. What happened 2,000 years ago is not being repeated today. It's not happening today. History's not repeating itself, he said. Now, 2,000 years ago, it was almost 2,000 years when Jerusalem was besieged by Gentile armies and then finally destroyed. But there's many commentators today, including even leaders here in Israel, who believe something like that is impossible in our modern age. But Bible history and secular history repeatedly warn that if we don't learn from the past, we will repeat it. How many disasters must men face before we finally learn that lesson? Let me just read to you what Emmanuel Navon wrote a few years ago in a publication called Azur. In this piece, he wrote about the deep division that there is within Israel, with the people of Israel today. Now, obviously, there's bitter division between the Israelis and the Palestinians, but there's also a widening gap right here in Israel between the Jews. And that's what he brings out in this particular piece. Navon wrote, in the end, Israeli Jews must make a choice between claiming their Jewish past and relinquishing it altogether. Throughout recent history, some have believed that by choosing the latter option, they would finally be left in peace. But as history has shown, the opposite is true. Denying our past, as well as our historical mission as a people, is as hopeless an act in our own land as it was in exile. Instead, he writes, the time has come to reclaim our past, indeed, to fight for it. Now, the history he speaks of course, is grounded in the Hebrew Bible, where Jerusalem is referred to more than 650 times. This city behind me, founded by King David, this city became Israel's capital 1,000 years, even before the establishment of Christianity, 1,700 years before Islam. Now, for Arab propagandists to erase that from their history books is one thing, but for Israel's own leaders to separate themselves from that heritage, that's suicide. Columnist Shmuel Snitzer asked years ago in an Israeli newspaper, he said, what kind of Jewish people will this be with no attachment to its land, without all the places of the book of Joshua, the wonderful vistas there, without the intensity of the prophetic vision, without the heritage of our fighters who spilled their blood for the country which was promised them and their descendants? Surrounded by enemies bent on delegitimizing their right to exist, Israel's survival depends on winning the fight for its own history. The Bible, Schnitzer pointed out, can't become a historical curiosity. It must be their calling card. Otherwise, he said, they will become a new Jewish people, a nation which doesn't belong to its land. Israel's enemies have always believed the Jews don't belong where they are, but by denying their past, many Jews are essentially saying the same thing. This is Stephen Flurry reporting from Jerusalem.